Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you what, if you love Spotify, big old outage, no more tunes. You know, the society's pretty peaceful, folks, but I'm telling you, when they lose their tunes, they're going to riot. If they lose their porn, they're going to riot. If they lose their... It's a tragic deal, folks, but don't worry, we've got you, right? You can listen to Liberty Roundtable live. We're not down. We're not out. We're not going anywhere. Spotify outage disrupts streaming for thousands of users worldwide. Spotify confirmed a widespread outage Tuesday after more than 20,000 users reported problems. And I guess they say service was finally restored, so it's okay now. Lance, are you going to be okay, brother?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and really just try to really maybe take some Xanax and calm down. I was about ready to go postal, knowing that I
got to take some Valium
this morning. You know, now I just need to hear that OnlyFans went down and my whole life is over. Yes,
it is.
That is what happens, right? People are controlled by media.
Yeah, people freak, and then they have to have mother's little helper, like the Rolling Stones talked about, right?
Yeah, of course, exactly. Well, at the end of the day, that's part of it too. Although I'm seeing reports coming out on that aren't so great.
Yeah, heard that. All right, Lance Migliaccio with me, ladies and gentlemen. Who is he? He's one of the Big brothers. He does the Big broadcast. He does the Crypto Power Hour broadcast. He does the radio show on the weekends on Liberty News Radio. The Big Mig, folks, powered by Truth. You can check it out at thebigbig.com, Rumble, YouTube, X. They're everywhere, baby. Spread the word, share the love, Truth Social. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they don't want to hear. And with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Mr. Vem Miller. He's a, what is he? He's a broadcaster. He's a filmmaker. He's a vision guy. He runs a website called AmericaHappens.com. We've had him on before several times, and the topic is his huge battle with Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. And according to Vem, Chad destroyed his life. He attacked my family, he says. He put a target on my back. Anyway, and I basically tried to get a hold of Chad and said, hey, you know what? I'm with the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. We can work this out. Come on. And Chad just stonewalled me. Chad then absolutely blatantly lied to me. He pretended that things were okay, but they weren't, because he lied to me. So I asked him a question. I said, did you say this? He said, no. I emailed him back a video clip, or an audio clip, I guess it was, where he actually said it. And then he started attacking me. Okay, so Chad Bianco has a long history of lies and corruption. He lied to the world, said Vem Miller was the third assassin to go after Trump. And so Vem has just received persecution and all kinds of things ever since. That's the summary of the story. It's way deeper than that. But Lance, you've interviewed Vem about this as well. What's your take on the story? Then we'll go straight to Vem.
You know, listen, I like Vem Miller. You know, I've known him for a long time. When I heard the story, I immediately thought this is a bunch of garbage. I got a hold of Vem. Of course, I was right. But it doesn't surprise me. You know, sheriffs and other people, they love clickbait. They love to get views and likes. And of course, you know, Bianco had political aspirations. So he wanted to propel himself to the top of the news cycle. And I think that Vem was his opportunity. Vem wasn't doing anything. You know, he was clearly not that guy. I immediately went into overdrive and started defending him online and otherwise. I said, this is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. I just was with this guy not too long ago. This is absolutely incorrect. And you know, myself, along with many others, did it. But listen, let's face it, Sam. That's what this world is about anymore. When it comes to mainstream media, it comes to social media, too many people are trying to go viral for all the wrong reasons. They're going viral for their own personal reasons. In this case, I think Bianco knew he was going to try to run, you know, for a different position. He had plans and aspirations that exceeded his work as a mediocre sheriff. And of course, what do you need to do that? You need eyeballs. You need people paying attention to you. You need something dramatic. And of course, I think he's going to pay the price now. I don't blame Vem for where he's at, and I think it did do a tremendous amount of reputational damage to him. And we'll hear more about it today. But I think Bianco, hey, listen, whatever you're doing, we got to stop this guy. We don't need him in any more political positions of power.
Amen to that. Sheriff Mack and I both offered to sit down to remedy this issue. Chad Bianco wouldn't hear any of it. I then tried to get to the bottom and prove truth. He lied to me. I gave him a soundbite that said exactly what I asked him if he said. He said no, but then his own words haunt him. Then he started literally attacking me. And that's the problem with this whole thing. Now, then what Chad did is he said, oh, Vem is using this to try to go viral. And I hardly believe that for 1 second. Vem's been a Trump supporter and a patriot for a long time. We've all known who he is. And so the bottom line is that Chad just miscalculated and attacked the wrong person. When the truth starts coming out, when folks like me and Sheriff Richard Mack want to sit down with Chad to resolve it, Chad doesn't know what to do. And so bottom line is my invitation at my expense for Chad Bianco to come on the radio and TV with me and clarify and honestly, openly answer questions stands with or without Vem Miller present. You choose, Chad, but I'll make it possible. Vem Miller, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on your show again.
All right. It's like a soap opera. It continues, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's been, when this whole thing started, I didn't think like 19 months later we'd still be talking about it. But there's a lot of things that have happened in the last 19 months. You know, one of the main things is that I've been trying to get the body camera footage from that day where Chad Bianco basically made me out to be an assassin. And funny enough, after 10 attempts at trying, there's something called the California Public Request Act, which is essentially like a Freedom of Information Act. Well, every time I've tried to apply for it, whether through the courts or whether through the actual California Public Request Act, he has refused. And I think it's obvious why he's refusing, because those body cameras will show that he knowingly created this fake third assassin hoax. I just, honestly, Sam, I don't know what he was thinking, man. You know, if you're going to accuse somebody of being an assassin, you know, even if you're like a criminal that has criminal aspirations and trying to frame somebody, you should do a little bit of research on that individual, because he really picked on somebody that was, you know, decently well connected in our freedom loving, you know, constitutional republic world. And, you know, me knowing people like you and Lance and, a lot of others. And ultimately, I think it seems like this backfired. It didn't do what he thought it was
trying to say is we're all picking on him now, and we're all this gang, and we're taking the side of Vem. And Lance, I'm not taking anybody's side. I approached it and said, hey, I just want to hear both sides. I want to sit down, come to an understanding, and you know what? Let the chips fall where they may. Chad, let's just do it. And Chad literally started attacking me. I still haven't picked any side. What I want is the truth. And the way you get the truth is you get the cameras. The way you get the truth is you get a jury of your peers. The way you get the truth is you have transparency. And the judge, you know, we know what the judge is saying and doing, because oftentimes judges mislead uninformed juries. It goes on and on and on. But when he made all those claims, why did the FBI or why did the general government, the whatever you want to call it, the government, I don't know if it's the FBI or who else would be involved in these cases, exactly, because is it the Justice Department, is it the FBI, who is it? But at the end of the day, they let it all go in about 15 seconds. But yet somehow the Nevada police are involved, Chad's involved, it never goes away, Lance.
Well, you know, when you had a lackluster career like Chad Bianco, and you haven't really had any outstanding moments that would make people think that you deserve a higher position in government, you've got to jump on, you know, any port in a storm. In this particular case, you know, he didn't do the research because he didn't want to do the research. He needed a viral moment to make it look like he was better at his job than he was. I didn't get any reports when I started to check Bianco out. I didn't get any reports that he was this incredible sheriff, amazing constitutionalist, America first kind of guy. And I don't mean MAGA and I don't mean conservative. I mean somebody that had done an amazing job, that had a stellar career.
Yeah.
His career is anything but that. And of course, he didn't want to investigate whether Vem Miller, whether he was truly guilty. He jumped on board, didn't check out the facts himself, didn't really care what the facts were. And that's when you commit, slander and libel, when you make some of the stupidest moves you could possibly make. And that's exactly what Bianco did. And the fact that he's now ignoring legitimate informational, requests under California law, that Vem's actually asking to, get evidence so he can defend himself, because we have the right to defend ourselves, of course. But that's what law enforcement does when they're corrupt. They have to hide the evidence. They have to destroy the evidence. They have to deny people the ability to get the evidence, because, of course, I'm sure that those videos are going to be damning for Chad Bianco. He doesn't want to lose the lawsuit, especially with his political run going on. So, but listen, this right away should tell the public, this is not a guy we can trust. This is not a guy that deserves a higher position. This is a guy that deserves the consequences of his actions, Sam.
And let me tell you what we kind of thought when this all went down. This is kind of interesting. We, the CSPOA, had a few kind of uncomfortable run-ins with Chad Bianco before. They weren't big, but he seemed to just kind of ignore us and act like we didn't matter or anything like that. And so when this all happened, we thought, oh my gosh, okay, we know Vem well. We know who he is. We've seen him for a long time. He's been in the circles. He's not some new entity. There's no way this happened like we're being told that it did. And so we really had hoped that we could sit down with Chad and do two things. One, solve the problem between the two of them and get, hey, maybe Chad says, you know what, I was overzealous. I jumped the gun, pardon the pun. but I, because President Trump's life is in such danger, we kind of overstepped. We're so sorry, Vem. And I think Vem would have dropped it if there was a candid admission and an explanation and a humble response. I think Vem would have let it go. So we kind of thought, well, hey, if we could get Chad to do that, then we might be friends with Chad over this, and we might be able to help Vem. And we really had high hopes. And Chad just literally lied and then literally turned on me and on Sheriff Mack and refused to do anything. And so anyway, that's the summary. And the reason I spend so much time on that is I want people to understand this is way beyond Vem Miller. Vem's taken the beating for it, but there's a lot of people with a lot of complaints about Chad Bianco as sheriff in Riverside, California, and it even goes all the way to the CSPOA, etc. And I think that's critical to understand, because that just shows you that it's not Vem. Now, Vem, tell us what's happened in the last 18 months. You've got 4 lawsuits now. It's just more convoluted than ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of our struggles really been with one of the main lawsuits is just trying to get this public information, which is our constitutional right through the Freedom of Information Act, and he's made that tremendously difficult, blocking it at every turn, and it's obvious why. I said it from day one. I was there. I witnessed this whole event. It was very obvious that. Apparently, what I've heard is that he sent word through his officers that to arrest me at all costs, regardless of the facts, because I think he saw an opportunity to look like some kind of a hero, and really didn't think this through, because this is why we have things like the Freedom of Information Act, because eventually it's going to come out exactly what happened. And if he had sent a message to his deputy saying, I don't care what the facts on the ground are, just arrest this guy, it's going to be obvious what he did. So we're pursuing, I have 3 lawsuits, and my parents actually have 1 lawsuit because they were the victims of an unwarranted raid upon their property 48 hours after this happened. It was almost, for people that, actually take the time to look at the body camera videos, which I have published under a piece called Geriatric Terrorism, it was almost as if Chad Bianco sent some bad cops without a warrant to my parents' home to plant some information. You guys should check it out. You tell me what you think was going on there, but it very much seemed like the attempted framing was continuing because the first attempt failed, right?
And the big problem is this reach that Chad Bianco has. If somehow he can just call up his buddies in Nevada and then they go ahead and sick the dogs on parents who aren't Vem, who, at what point, and if Chad Bianco becomes governor, not just sheriff, then what kind of abuse and reach will Chad have? I mean, isn't that really the question? And I think what Chad Bianco's doing right now is he's saying, hey, I want to hold this off till I'm governor, then we'll deal with it. Isn't that
I mean, I think
the Chad plan?
Yeah, I think that's part of I could tell you, I've seen him running for his life when it comes to running for governor. But Sam, I don't think it's going to work. He's fourth in the polls, and what I'm realizing is that I became friendly with a lot of the different governor campaigns, and there's another gentleman by the name of Steve Hilton that has been leading the polls. And what's transpired in the last 24 hours is that Chad Bianco, by being in the race and occupying a portion of the Republican voters, seems like there's a good chance that Steve Hilton might get locked out of the jungle primary in California because of Chad Bianco, and hence we're only going to have two Democrats as the option of the next California governor. Which I think is going to cause a different level of a storm in terms of Chad Bianco, because that'll totally reveal what an egomaniac we're dealing with here. That he would basically ruin like a Republican's chances of becoming governor just by virtue of the fact that he's refused to drop out, even though the polls would indicate that he has no chance of becoming California governor. So the better candidate
Chad
might
can hand it to the Democrats, Lance.
Well, look, if anybody that thinks that Chad Bianco has any kind of an ethical dilemma with trying to take control of the governorship, you'd be sadly mistaken. He's proven himself to be a liar. He's proven himself to be a sheriff that can't be trusted. Listen, if he wasn't worried about this lawsuit, then he would just have them turn over that body cam footage instantly. And I think Vem's going to have to probably file some pretty aggressive motions to compel if he wants to get that footage, and he's going to have to really turn it into a firestorm on mainstream media. And of course, that's not what judges want. That's not what the courts want. But what do you do when a guy is, obviously violating the law and trying to hide evidence that would prove Vem Miller's story is accurate? He can't afford to do that. He's been in a governor's race. It's going to prove him to be a liar. In general, the difficulty that Vem's up against is that mainstream media, went ballistic with this to begin with. I think I was probably one of the first people to come out and defend Vem. I had just been with him at an event in Washington, D.C. I'd had lots of conversations to him, prior and post of that event. I knew that there was no possible way that Vem had done any of the things that were being put in the press. He just wasn't that kind of guy, and our dialogues have been pretty candid. If he was going to say something, he might have said it right there. Everybody knows me, that I don't just blindly follow Donald Trump. I don't just blindly follow this administration. I call a spade a spade. But I knew Vem for who he was, and Bianco can't afford to have this come out before the run if he truly wants to, try to control with Democratic, manipulation like they're known to do in California, which doesn't surprise me. Does anybody actually think that they want a Republican governor in place, that the Democrats in general aren't in panic mode since the Supreme Court just took away their race-based districts? I haven't even heard any chatter about race-based districts in California, but I'd be shocked if there aren't a bunch of them. We're sure seeing it across the country. So here's the thing. Bianco's going to do what Bianco's good at. That's being a liar, a scammer, and somebody that can't be trusted by the public, and especially the people in California.
Vem, what do you say to all that?
Yeah, I can't disagree. I actually had some really cool flashbacks of hanging out with Lance in D.C. I think it was the Rescue the Republic event that was right before I got called the third assassin. And it was funny hanging out with him and a bunch of other patriots in D.C. This was like probably a month or something before. I'm lucky, man. I'm really lucky, I got to tell you, Sam, because there was so many people that came out and said, no, this is nonsense. They didn't even doubt it. They knew automatically that Chad Bianco's accusations were false. And I could just imagine if there wasn't that tidal wave of truth against the tidal wave of lies, how this could have actually played out. It could have, as hard as it's been, it could have been worse. And I got to thank people like Lance for sticking up to, for the truth and not doubting that, what Chad was saying was complete nonsense. I'm worried about California, and on a contemporary level, I'm actually worried about California because I think we have a chance of having Steve Hilton make a good run at California governor, which right now is definitely being harmed by Chad's run, and it's becoming very obvious that Chad has no chance of winning. So we'll see, man. The next 2-3 weeks is going to be very, very interesting with the California primary coming up on June 2nd.
All right, so where are we going to go with these lawsuits? Is it running your bank account dry? Are they just going to be able to drag all this out forever? I mean, I thought we'd have answers on this thing and a definitive on this a long time ago, right?
Well, there's luckily I've had some experience in law in terms of representing myself. So one of the lawsuits I'm actually doing myself, that's the California Public Request Act lawsuit. I filed that myself. I'm not even using a lawyer for that one. Because it's pretty cut and dry if you've done the whole lawsuit thing. So that is we have a hearing coming up on June 24th. That's to compel a judge, or to have a judge compel the Riverside Sheriff's Department to release that public information. Then there's one state action against Riverside County and Chad Bianco, one federal action, and the reason why we've had to split it up that way is because the state action's pretty clear. That is about the defamation, slander, him basically misusing his mic to spread lies across the country and the world. But then there's the federal action that's about civil rights violations. And that's the one that we've had challenges with because Chad Bianco won't release the body cameras. He won't release that public information where the civil rights violations lie. So we've had to split this up in the state and federal actions due to Chad trying to block the truth from coming out. The fourth lawsuit that's going on is my parents' lawsuit against the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department when a bunch of cops without a warrant descended upon their property due to Chad Bianco's lies, terrified the crap out of him, gave him PTSD. So we have essentially 4 lawsuits running right now. And I'm actually on the verge of filing a 5th one, which is another Freedom of Information Act lawsuit to reveal what actually happened in Nevada, because we're also running into problems with them releasing the public information. Although what I would say is that I think Nevada is going to release that public information, and if they don't, then yes, I'm going to file another lawsuit. While I think Riverside's just going to keep blocking the truth because, like you said, it's like his governor run would go up in smoke if this stuff comes out. And I think worse, honestly, because I think once people find out really what happened with this third assassin hoax and the fact that he fabricated the whole thing and targeted me, I think he stands to lose his sheriff's position, which is exactly what should happen, by the way. The reason why we're in such a mess
without question. And that's why we're pushing so hard on this, folks, is we like good sheriffs and want to back them and promote them and support them. But when you've got a bad actor like this that literally, says someone tried to commit an assassination when it's blatantly proven false, then, what do you do with that? And to me, that's critical. Look, the FBI dropped it in about 24 hours, didn't they? They let it go.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was they didn't even question me, the FBI and Secret Service. While they
were doing that, Chad was doubling down, attacking you.
Yeah, he does that, by the way. For people that are following Chad Bianco, he knelt for BLM, and there's like literal video of it out there. And whenever you bring it up, he just yells at you as if like yelling is going to change history. So that's the kind of person.
We're flat out of time, Vem. Thank you so much. Give people your website where people can learn more.
AmericaHappens.com or VemMiller.com.
All right, buddy. Keep us up to speed on what's happening. If anything changes, let us know.
Thank you guys. I appreciate your time.
All right, for Sam Bushman, Vem Miller, Lance Migliaccio, thebigmig.com, I'm Sam Bushman. Liberty Roundtable Live, libertyroundtable.com. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America.
When you try, it's worth it when you try.